5, 4. Hello, guys. Hello, and welcome to On the Block with me. I'm McCrae. How's it going? Really awkward intro, as always. Gotta have it awkward. I'm joined, as always, with Spencer, my main brother. How's it going? How's it going? What's new?
Good. Nothing at all. Just fucking pumped that Heather was able to join us.
And exactly, we have our guest tonight, Heather. How's it going?
Hi.
From King of the Nerds.
Pretty sweet.
Love to see you here, but I hate to see you here because I would like to see you back in the house, or in Nirvana,
Yeah.
I guess it should be, or it is.
Yeah, well, the rest of the season's going to be really interesting. So
Don't spoil it. Don't even tease me. I'm getting. I want to go in fresh.
No, it's going to be super boring.
Yeah.
It's gonna suck.
Yeah.
Thumb twiddling.
Yeah.
If you touch it, you're out.
You were pretty rowdy. I mean, honestly, like you were pretty rowdy. So I can see it not being, like fucking Kobe face all. I love Kobe, but he didn't have that spark that you've got to just get out there and speak your minds. Let's
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's why. That's most people's main complaint is like, now who's going to be the sass dispenser?
say. Yes,
Absolutely.
exactly.
Absolutely.
So hey, we want to just jump right into this. I've got a lot of questions here, a lot of things I've got jotted down I want to talk to you about, but we'll kind of have a up and down. We might, weave in and out of different episodes and that kind of thing. But we just want to cover a lot of stuff. So
Awesome.
just the question is more of a guide for you to talk. Okay.
Okay, great.
So don't
I'm
feel like
good
you got
at
to stick
talking,
to just
so.
the question. All right. Did you watch King of the Nerds season 1 and 2?
Okay, so I watched season 1, and I was like, this is so easy, and I could beat everybody here.
Okay.
And then casting contacted me through YouTube, so I felt like I had to put my money where my mouth is. So I applied for season 2. I was almost cast on season 2, and then they didn't. So then, because I am bitter, I didn't watch season 2. They asked me to apply for season 3. I just forwarded them all my emails from season 2. And then I went to Europe for 3 weeks, and when I got back, they were like, "Hey, do you want to be on the show?" So I was like, "That's convenient." But yeah, so then I binge watched season 2 because I'm not going to enter a competition not knowing what I'm doing.
Sure. Okay.
Excellent.
All right. Because when the previous house guest, like, what do you call each other? Contestants. The previous nerds came out for the Talk Nerdy to Me thing. Like your face, you could clearly see that you recognized them all. And I thought that you'd watched it, but also, like, I didn't know if you could just binge watched it beforehand or was a fan leading up to your.
Oh yeah, no, I watched season 1 while it was airing because I saw previews for it and I was like, this looks like a train wreck.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and then, I watched it and I was like, well, I could have won that. Like, this is easy.
Okay, so on your season, you basically didn't really even have to audition for it since you got so far up on season 2 casting. Is that correct?
They told me, like, whenever I sent them my stuff, they included it in the network pitch.
Okay.
For renewal. So they weren't even renewed whenever they used all my stuff.
Great.
Do you claim to people that you pretty much got season 3? Like, it's pretty much on your back. You pretty much, don't
Lily
want
was in
to
the
brag.
same position. I don't know if anybody else was, but Lily and I we had both gotten very far, like, signed contracts for season 2. So for season 3, we were both kind of like, well, okay, we're going to show up, most likely.
Okay.
Would you, like, watching season 2, did you ever think, like, I wish I would have been on season 2 instead of season 3?
No! Oh my god. Watching season 2, I was like, thank Jesus Christ I dodged that.
Didn't Zach look like fun?
Are you specifically referencing Zach?
Well, so here's the thing. Zach, yes. Also, people in the house were pretty, like, subdued. Like, the only person who was, like, barely, like, MK was sometimes sassy, and Chris Jackson was, like, Chris Jackson was the voice of strategy and logic.
And
when
also
your strategy
entertainment.
is win all nerds, like, what a disaster team.
Yeah.
I mean,
I will say this, like, season 1 was like, oh, we're all nerds. We've got so much in common that we've been outcasts all of our lives. Let's hug each other and fucking kumbaya. And then, like, season 2, Zach was like, I will fucking kill you. It's like, I will fucking wreck your shit. And, like, I love that. Like, Zach, honestly, Zach's the reason season 3 got picked up. I mean, he made, honestly, I feel that way. I think that Zach's presence in season 2 made people, like, pay attention to it and be like, holy shit, this guy's fucking crazy, but it's good TV.
Big personality, and there weren't a lot of big personalities.
Yeah, true.
And
Xander, you gotta give it to Xander though.
Yeah,
Love
Xander, and, like, I think if Mary Kate would have stayed around longer, there's like a possibility there. But
Yeah.
other than that, I was like,
So
step up, guys.
when
I
you-
don't care that you're on TV. Make yourself ashamed.
when dance monkey, when you went there, did you think like, did you want to play kind of a role, you know, because did you want to play like a little bit yourself but exaggerated? Was there any kind of thoughts like that?
Well, so my intention was that I don't think that I look very smart, and I kind of talk like a sailor. So I was like, well, I'm going to be super peppy, super nice.
Hold on, you're breaking up.
That was.
Wait, hold on a second. Could you repeat that? Sorry, hold up. Could you repeat
Okay.
that? You were just like
I
breaking
think
up that whole
I think
time.
your microphone got staticky, McCrae.
Was it me?
Yeah, I believe it was you.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry, guys. I'm
Quit
using this
fucking-
lavalier. I'm fucking everything up. Holy shit.
Your lavalier.
It's my lavalier mic, all right? Come on, this is some pro shit. I'm a nerd about
Heather,
video.
he just like sang.
Yeah.
There it was again. I think your hair's swishing it.
Okay.
Can you move your necklace,
I'm moving
Melissa?
That's yeah. All right, we're good. I moved my hair. I moved everything out of the way.
All right.
God,
Sorry,
I'm so
Heather.
sorry.
No, you're good. So I'm going to start at the beginning of that spiel, I guess.
Yes.
So I don't think that I look very smart or intimidating. So my goal was to go in and be like super pumpy, like peppy, and just super likable, and have people really underestimate me. And then we got started on the first Nerd War, and it became extremely clear that nobody else on my team was that useful except for Jonathan. So I wasn't able to kind of do what I had in mind, because the options were show your full strength and run your damn team so you can have a chance at winning, or live on the fail boat. So pretty early on, like, Jonathan and I both stepped up as leaders on our team, which doesn't let you do the fly under the radar cutesy bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that first challenge. Rube Goldberg machine. That was kind of a cool challenge to display your team names and that kind of stuff. But I want to talk about Ori's joke. Okay. Did you really feel marginalized in that, or did you? Your face told a different thing than what your confessional said, or what you said later on. Is that you seemed to clearly take it as a joke, but it still may have been a little hurtful. Is that?
So going into this, what our team did was we divided into, because we were graded on like functionality and style. So in the war room, immediately Amanda, I knew, was going to be my strongest ally in the house. When we were standing on the mat, when we very first took up our blindfolds, she was like, let's be best friends. So when we were in the war room, this is a Rube Goldberg challenge is something that's like very up my alley. Like, I'm very into like tinkering and like creative engineering. But when we were dividing who gets on what team, Amanda was like, I can't engineer at all. And so I was like, well, I'm going to go with her, because my goal here was not necessarily to engineer the crap out of this challenge, because we had a mechanical engineer and we had, somebody with a math PhD, but it was to get close to Amanda. So whenever it became clear that some people on the team weren't as knowledgeable as I had assumed, I started throwing out my ideas. Because I had already put myself in this style category instead of team function, I generally wasn't being listened to, which is moderately annoying because I'm extremely clever. So that was not the first time that people had completely ignored me. So that scene actually went on for a while, where I said, let's have the train circle back. And nobody said anything. And I was like, okay, well, guys, we can have the train circle back. And then people continued to ignore me. And so I was like, okay, fine. And I walked away. And then, maybe 2 minutes later, somebody was like, we could have the train circle back. And I was like, oh, I just said that. And then that's when Ori threw out the woman comment. So by that point, I was already so annoyed by not being listened to in general that I was just like, dude, like, you just met somebody, and also this is a social game, and that's what you're going to say to me.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, that would drive me nuts.
It's not like I thought, like, this dude sucks and I'm going to take a dump on his chest. I was just like, what are you, like, are you a child? Like, that's not the type of joke that you say during a timed competition, or you never.
Or in a competition.
So.
Well, you didn't want to take a dump on his chest, but you did try to get Amanda, Jonathan, and Jacob to rally with you to vote him into the Nerd Off in the event that y'all lost.
Well, I did get that.
So, yes.
First of all. And that was because he was functionally a distraction. So throughout that entire Nerd War, I don't take I'm not intelligent. So throughout that entire Nerd War, I was like, here are good ideas that I have. Like, they don't say this, but like the iron melting mechanism that they go on and on about, that was me, right? So I don't take kindly to being called stupid. And so to have this guy who's walking around and like blowing bubbles and stuff completely ignore me because he's technically a mechanical engineering student, I was like, he's not working on the challenge. He's not being efficient at anything that we're doing here. So bye, friend. Like, to me, he's not only not an asset to the team, he was a detriment to the team.
No, he was. I mean, I'll give it to you. From what they showed, the edit they gave him, he was pretty fucking useless.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, yes.
Like,
and it was really disheartening because when we revealed parts of ourselves to the other team, he kept the fact that he was a mechanical engineer secret. So I was like, well, obviously he's going to be good at this. But then to have him be not very good and also not being able to use his teammates was just super frustrating.
Okay. So that got you and Ori off. Would you say that got you off on the wrong foot? Because as it went on, I mean, you got into an argument with him about making a boat paddle, and then did that kind of set the tone for you and Ori's relationship while you were in Nerdvana?
Ori and I actually have like a super great relationship. The thing is it did set the tone for me to be the person to tell him when to fix his behavior. Okay. Because he does kind of need somebody to mom him and make sure that he's on task. Sure. And I already had played the role of the bad guy, so I was like, I can do that. Like, if we need somebody to yell at him, like, during a challenge, like, I'm willing to be the person to be like, you can't make a fucking oar. Like, have you ever seen one in your entire life? Yeah. And so that way nobody else has to step up and be the bad guy, right? Mm-hmm. Because then you have one person disliking a whole team instead of just me. Like, I'll do that, whatever.
Did you develop a confidence or maybe even a false confidence after being in the Secret Six that you could talk to people in a more harsher tone than you would normally in a social game?
No. I'm always pretty blunt. So the show does a good job, or it does like a good job of showing how blunt I am. It doesn't do a very good job of letting people know that that's why people like me. Okay, right? Sure. So people are generally like, yeah, Heather, she just says shit, right? But then I'm also like, when you see when I leave, like, everybody cries. Like, obviously, everybody was a good friend to me. Sure. But yeah, so it was one of those things where it's just like, I don't sugarcoat it, and I'm willing to be the person who's straight up honest, and especially because we have competitions to win. So if you can't build a fucking paddle and that's your only task for 2 hours, like what, we show up without paddles? No. Yeah. Like, I'd rather be the bad guy than lose.
Yeah. Yeah, no, right on.
And that kind of gets.
I even thought his design for a paddle was fucking stupid. In my mind, if you just had like a hand paddle, that would have been like a big cardboard, just stick your hand went in, almost like a glove. That'd have been easier than a fucking. How strong was that oar?
Well, the poster tube was quite sturdy. So his first design was about an index card, and it was taped to the paddle, which is why there's a scene where I'm like, you want the board to go up inside, and you want it to be multiple layers thick. But it's like, I also was the person physically, so we had Amanda and Colby coding the cardboard, and then Jonathan and I were physically constructing the boats. And it's like, I can't construct the boats and design the paddles and build the paddles. Like, I am one person. Yeah. This is one task. Do it. And and in the end, like, if you look at Todd's paddles, Todd is not a mechanical engineer, but those are some very, very nice paddles. They didn't fall apart. They function completely because you have to displace a lot of fluid. This much does not displace a lot of fluid. And that was his revised design. That was after we vetoed the first one. Like,
you kind of mentioned what the show showed your sassiness, but they didn't show that's why people liked you. Kind of like, Spencer, you were talking about it before. Like, what kind of did they edit? Like, what was the good edits? What were the bad edits? What did they think they highlighted? What do you think they should have highlighted? What did they miss?
I actually, like, when I watch the show, I'm like, yup, that's classic me. Like, I feel like I'm not necessarily misrepresented, but I feel like it's so much different to kind of experience me in person than it is in that scenario. Sure. Because they don't show the, like, well, I mean, I guess they kind of do. So the thing is like, I'm really fierce in both competition, but also about the people that I care about, right? Mm-hmm. Which is why I yell at Moby. Like, it's shit doesn't fly, period. I don't care who you are, right?
Yeah.
So you love Moby. I mean, like, you're a really big fan of Moby, right?
Yeah, I think that he has a really good worldview.
Yeah.
Well, I remember being jealous of Moby in the South Side video he did with Gwen Stefani because it seems like she licked the back of his head. But that was also like 17 years ago. So he can go fuck himself for trying to be a dick on that.
Well, yeah, so this guy is a guest judge on King of the Nerds, which airs in the Friday night death slot, and he gets drunk on his own power.
I thought you were going to say that he was literally drunk. I was like, oh, that was going to make sense. Allegedly.
You did have Travi from Gym Class Hero there, and I know you said that you're a big fan of Gym Class Hero. So.
Well, I was. I used to be a gigantic fan of Gym Class.
Oh, so you're not now?
No, like back in like 2005, like that's high school Heather loved Gym Class Hero.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, what about Danica McKellar? Did you get to talk to her at all? Because
Yeah, so the thing about Danica, like the thing that I like about her, and I kind of say this in the show, is it's like she could have floated her entire life by just being beautiful, right? Like
Sure.
she is so beautiful. But instead she goes and she gets a degree in math and then she writes books to get little girls into math. So it's like super girly math books for girls. And it's like that to me is the coolest thing in the entire world. And during judging, she said something specifically about me where she was like, it's your attitude that's going to get you everywhere. Because she was like, when the machine failed, I was the first person up. Like I was giving everybody a pep talk. And she was like, that to me is like, she was like, that's everything. Like your undying positivity. And to have compliments like that come from somebody who I look up to so much was like, super special.
That's got to mean a lot.
McCrae knows this, but I had a huge crush on Winnie Cooper in the Wonder Years. Like she was one of my first 2 or 3 girls that I was like, oh my God, she's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
Well, in interviews, they tried to get me to make a comment about Winnie Cooper, and I was like, let me tell you a thing. Like Danica McKellar is so much more than her character on the Wonder Years. Like. I love her so much.
As you can imagine, I've never read her books written for little girls. So
yeah,
I only have.
She does a thing on Twitter where she does weekly puzzles. So every Thursday she publishes a palindrome puzzle, and it's always she's
cool.
so smart. Like she's just so clever.
And
I knew all of this before the show, and so when I saw her, I totally lost it. But.
Yeah,
that's great.
Well, she is incredible. Absolutely, I've always had an admiration for her that did extend farther than her character on Wonder Years. Because I've seen her books in the bookstore and that kind of thing. I thought, damn, I was like, this girl's got it going on,
Also, she named her son Draco, which is like Draco Malfoy from Harry Potter, right?
Okay.
That's bold. Character. That's pretty bold. To name your kid after a pretty big villain of this that's bold.
Yeah, she's dream material. Like she's perfect.
Yeah, no, I've thought
I
it for
agree.
you. So let's just jump into Secret Six, because I think that is a huge thing that you were part of the the first major inter-team alliance that King of the Nerds has seen. McCrae and I talked about this last season, and we've talked about it several times since, that we love King of the Nerds. We like where it started, and each season it evolves. And we're hoping that because of your alliance, that next season people will get in there wanting to form alliances and not trying to be like, we're all here to have fun. We're here to stab people in the back and to win. And y'all took that approach to a large extent. So explain the formation of the Secret Six, and we'll just develop some follow-up questions through
my first alliance in the house was to Amanda. We made that night 1. By the end of the first night, I did interviews where I was like, my friendship with Amanda is worth more than $100,000. And they were like, you've known her for 5 hours. And I was like, suck it, I don't care. It was an instant soulmate scenario.
Yeah.
So then I thought that I had seen Jonathan and Jacob form an alliance because I watched them walk out together. Jonathan thinks that he's very sneaky, but he's not. So I watched them leave the room like Amanda and I had earlier, and I was like, well, I know what those assholes are doing, which is why the next day I was like, I can either gun for Jonathan or I can get him to play my game. So that's why we had the meeting underneath the ironing board where I was like, hey, so I know you two are working together. Me and Amanda are working together. Let's get these other people out. The Girls Alliance was primarily Amanda's idea because if we had won that challenge, I wanted to send Lillian because I thought she was a super threat. But I had already had an individual alliance with Rachel. So when the Girls Alliance happens, we win the cosplay challenge, and I'm like, I don't care, I still want to send Lillian. And Amanda freaked out on me and was like, you give her 1 pass. If you blow this up now, there's no point. Give her 1 pass. So then we kept having these meetings in the morning in the girls' bathroom where all the girls were talking. I had an individual alliance with Jonathan, and he was very insecure in that alliance because he knew how close Amanda and I were. Sure. Amanda had an individual alliance with Ben. Lily had an individual alliance with Ben. Rachel and I had an alliance. So one day when we were in the bathroom talking, I was like, if we get 3 people on each team, then we can force a vote if we have to. So it's the perfect number. And everyone was like, yes, I agree. And so I was like, I bring in Jonathan, because I wanted Jonathan to have confidence in our relationship. So then, of course, Lily and Amanda bring in Ben, and that's kind of how it happened is people are like, oh, you made a cool kids club, or you picked all the pretty people, or whatever. But it was like, no, it's the people who were already in there forming alliances playing a social game.
Okay, so you basically, the Secret Six was basically, it sounds to me like a formation of sub-alliances that had already started. Y'all just made them solid with the correct amount of numbers and needed to keep each other safe.
Pretty much, yeah, exactly. And that's what, so the people, it's like, strategy-wise, it wasn't necessarily the best because these other people weren't playing the social game, so they were going to get out anyway, right?
Okay.
So, but us giving it a name and having like a formal agenda was just, convenience's sake. And this way, the whole goal was to make people who are insecure in their personal alliances with you feel more secure. That's what my point was. So specifically, Jonathan and Rachel. But then even within the Secret Six, there was a bunch of hoopla because Ben and Lily are obviously close. Me and Amanda are obviously close. So I had to force Jonathan. They were both like, I know that you wouldn't pick me. Like, if it came down between me and other people, I would be the one to go. So I set them together and was like, you two be friends. Which in the end backfires against me because when Jonathan breaks the Secret Six, he takes Rachel, who's literally someone who I forced him to be friends with that was bothering me.
Yeah.
So do you think that because making an alliance is actually a really good idea, it seems like, I mean, do you regret it in any way? Do you think that you screwed up in any way? Do is there, what's your one decision that you could have changed? What would you change?
Surprisingly, nothing. So at the end of the first episode, obviously Amanda came in this playing a strategic game, but Amanda is like a very heart-oriented person. At the end of the first episode, I pulled Jonathan aside and I was like, you're the only person paying as much attention as I am. And he was like, yes. And I was like, private conversation, which is why then when he gets to pick somebody to take out, it's me because I was the only competitor strategy-wise to him. So there isn't necessarily anything that I would have changed because in all of my intro interviews, I was like, I'm coming here, I'm not going to make friends. I've watched the show before and I don't like these people.
Was there a lot of alliance forming paranoia that went on earlier on, or were there some people you could tell were just completely oblivious to the fact that you need to start kind of chumming up and forming alliances?
So I guess Ben didn't request. I think Ben was the least alliance-y. Ben and Lily were the least alliance-y of the Secret Six because everybody else had propositioned me for a personal alliance in episode 1.
Okay.
But Ben and Lily didn't enter into a personal alliance until mid-episode 2. So they were a little bit late to it. But Caitlin had no idea, Colby had no idea, Ori had no idea, Todd Thomas had no idea. They were completely oblivious.
Okay, all right. Caitlin in the past few episodes is becoming more aware of strength in numbers, and that's interesting.
Whenever she got voted in 2 times, what she said was she was like, well, if I had advice to other people, it would be come in and make friends because I didn't come in to make friends, and it's biting me.
Yes.
But also, I would say that she's being pushed along by Jonathan. All of this is Jonathan realizing, all of this is Jonathan's insecurity in the Secret Six.
Sure.
So in episodes previous, he and I had actually done little things to try to set up being friendly with Caitlin that didn't necessarily make the show. So he and I had both already thought about this. So most of the people who are involved in this other alliance that are created are people who are being shuttled by Jonathan. Rachel is technically in this alliance. She's been shuttled through by Jonathan, right? Because Jonathan needs a second vote, and he knows that he can get her. And then Caitlin has these ideas, but they're not really ideas. It's all Jonathan telling Caitlin what to do, and Caitlin being like, "Oh, that makes sense."
Okay.
Yeah.
So you definitely feel comfortable in saying that Jonathan is up to the episodes that we've seen so far. Jonathan is the mastermind of what's going on.
Yeah. Definitely.
Okay. And he's painting the picture so that Caitlin feels like she knows what's going on, but it's only because she's being spoon-fed by Jonathan.
Yep, exactly. Okay. And same with Rachel, entirely. Jonathan is
the
center of all of that.
Okay.
And I know that because Jonathan thinks that he's very clever, so he's really bad at hiding his secrets.
Sure.
But Jonathan is not necessarily the best social barometer. So until this point, our relationship had been kind of Jonathan speculating and modeling things that would happen and me being like, that's not true. This would never happen.
Okay.
Because I'm much more observant and socially aware than he is.
Okay. I want to ask you a question about Ben and Lily. Okay.
Yeah.
As far as, Todd referred to them as a power couple. Were they seen, from what we've seen on the show, obviously, I don't know if anything develops romantically with them. However, they do seem to be tight. You, on your own accord, you say that they're very close. What is kind of the status of Ben and Lily's place in the game? Are they getting kind of infatuated with each other and forgetting the game? Or are they actually playing a very strong kind of power duo or showmance type game?
They don't realize they don't really realize what they're doing, but people are scared of them because they are a unit that gets 2 votes, right?
Sure.
But yeah, they weren't thinking about it as much as other people were.
So they didn't see the relationship forming as big as it was actually more of a detriment to them than what they realized.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Because anytime that you have a strong duo situation, you're setting one of you up for attack.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yep.
And you kind of think that it'd be strong. I mean, like, to me, it seems like they are going to be a power couple. It seems like that's already what the show is kind of setting up with the edit and, like, everything talking about how, like, ooh, googly eyes and all that stuff, you know. But we'll see, I guess.
Well, until last episode, the only people who had talked about each other in, like, interviews were Bennett and Lily had talked about each other, and Jonathan and I had talked about each other.
Okay.
So they're just setting up. Yeah, I'm really curious.
I want to get on something while we're still talking about Lily before I get too sidetracked. Okay, when Todd had his meltdown and verbally attacked Lily, or however you want to say it, you were very quick to come to Lily's rescue on this. Okay, and take her side in defense against Todd. Now, you knew that Lily was part of a secret alliance whose main goal was to get out other people other than the Secret Six. So Todd, even though to your own admission, he made a really good paddle for that challenge. Okay, so no matter what he could have possibly done, it wouldn't have been enough, and it would not have helped him to stay in the house really any longer. I mean, Todd's days were numbered. So
I like to hear that. I like that.
Yeah. So all that being said, do you feel like making, I don't want to say making Todd feel bad, but did you empathize with him at all, knowing that the deck was stacked against him and that he was lashing out about something that he really had no control over fixing, no matter if he'd have been the sweetest guy on earth?
Here's the thing, though. At this point, it was a team game, and he was the weak link on their team. No matter what he did that challenge, his building in the Rube Goldberg machine was subpar, and he didn't help that much with the cosplay challenge, which you would think that he would have helped with the story some because he is so overdramatic. So, yeah, there was almost nothing that he could do because it was an engineering challenge. The thing that the show doesn't show is that Todd yelled for at least 30 minutes after he did a 15-minute pace around the entire house talking to himself.
That would have been great TV. Why didn't they should have it behind the scenes on TBS.com.
Well, it shows a little bit of him. It shows him leaving and being like, no, not today. So in that moment, what was going on for me is I was with my team in another room, and I was like, guys, this yelling is really bothering me. And I specifically, so it kept going on, and I noticed that nobody was yelling back. I thought that their whole team was in that room, and I learned later that wasn't the case. It was just Lily until Ben came. So whenever you have one person yelling for 20 minutes and nobody responds, like this is an intense situation, right? Like, they're not two people fighting; it's one person being attacked. So this continued on, and I said to my team was like, Heather, don't go in there. Like, Heather, don't touch it. Like, let them have Discord. Yeah. And I said, I was like, this is why I really liked Mary Kate, because she was the only person to say to Zach, like, what you're doing is not okay. And then this is what happened to her. And Colby said to me, well, wouldn't it be great if you acted like the people you looked up to instead of just talking about it? Being, like, trying to egg me on in a way that he didn't think I was going to go in there. And I was like, no, you know what? You're exactly right. And I power walked across the house, which is why so many people enter behind me, because they were like, she is on a war path.
Sure.
And when I entered, I tugged Lily's jacket, because all I wanted her to do was leave. Because if she's just being yelled at, all she has to do is remove herself.
Now, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Lily's personality doesn't seem like the kind of person that she doesn't seem to put up much fight for herself. Like, that's just basically Lily's personality. What's that?
She has a history of emotional abuse, and I think that's very clear in her reaction, right? Like, if you have somebody who can sit there and let somebody yell at you for 20 minutes and not cry and not react, that's somebody, and this is not something that she told me, it's something that I walked in there and I saw, right? And so when I asked her to leave with me, she shook her head no, and so that's when I hugged her and was like, Todd, bye, like, get the fuck out, so long, sayonara, bye, because if Lily won't leave with me, then I will make him leave.
Okay. Well,
that's... And also, Rachel entered right behind me with the intent of taking Todd, right? So, like, when we entered in that scenario, I was going for Lily, Rachel was going for Todd. Like, it was a dual attack.
Okay, I got you. So it was, like, that's interesting, because it looked like, when you're watching an edited show, it's hard to kind of get the full background on everything. And it was kind of hard because I thought Todd seemed to be a decent guy. I mean, like, never met him, don't know him, talked to him a little bit on Twitter, but I'd never lived with him for, a week or two in the house. But the thing is like I was watching it from the point of view of knowing that he was at a disadvantage that he couldn't put his finger on. So
But-
lashing out seemed to be almost like a natural reaction out of the frustration because he had worked really hard in the challenge. He'd done very well. It wasn't necessarily his fault that they lost. And then no matter what, he's going to be voted in. And when there's $100,000 in the line, emotions are tight. Things are tense. You're away from your home. You all want to do good. You don't want to look like a fool on TV. There's a lot of things that play into a reaction. And
well, this is one thing that I said is like when somebody yells for that long, they're not yelling because it's fun anymore, right? And Todd will admit this, and what he says is he's like, have you ever been so mad that you really hurt somebody, and then you realize that you can't turn away from it, so you just keep doing
going.
it? And he was like, she didn't yell back. There was nothing I could do. What I needed was for somebody to come in, disrupt it, not be like what Ben did and be like, talk to me. He's like, I need someone to disrupt it and someone to physically remove me from the situation because I wasn't going to stop.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I mean, Todd obviously wanted somebody to fight with him or get him away. And she didn't fight with him, and nobody really got him away till you came in and got Lily.
But it's like it's one of those things where it's like, like you said, there was nothing he could do, and so his goal was to kind of shake things up and hope that if he blew up big enough, that things would fall in his favor.
And
it's
this
like
is
it's a
something.
very desperate attempt.
And like it's something that we've seen on most, or like we had it happen on our season, Big Brother 15. It's like people when they see the end coming, they blow up, they try anything they can, and it's like I see it from all people's perspectives because Todd was put into a corner, so he's obviously gonna lash back. But at the same time, it's like this is the perfect time to be like, oh, look at Todd acting crazy. It's easy pickings, It's like of course you have to gang up on him. He showed his hands at that point.
Bothered me about Todd was not his initial blow up, but his speech the next day in the throne room.
The Ra's al Ghul speech.
Yeah, it's just like, cool it,
Amazing.
man. But it's one of those things where he realized like he had gone too far and he knew it, and so he was like, I can't go back. If I go back and become Mr. Nice Guy, I'm going to go out looking weak.
Yep.
The best thing that I can do is go out being the best villain that I can.
Yep.
So I was
Absolutely.
like, go for it. And you're exactly what it was. And also what they don't show is like when Todd was studying, he refused anybody to help him study. So people like went in to help him and he refused. And Ori came to the round table where we were all discussing what we wanted the outcome to be and was like, well, Todd wants no one to help him. And I was like, Ori, what you're going to do is you're going to grab a box of Cheerios, you are going to grab a soda and a bottle of water, and you're going to go sit next to him. Because he needs somebody to just be there with him right now, even if he says he doesn't. And that sure as fuck can't be me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Ori was like, yes.
Yeah, Ori actually told us about that during his interview, that you encouraged him to go in there and do that. Have your feelings for Todd? Obviously, like we know what it's like to have feelings towards somebody during the taping of a show,
someone,
and then like afterwards you become good friends or whatever.
Todd's
Todd's
one of my best friends. I talk to him on the phone almost every day. Like whenever he's driving home from work, he calls me.
Good.
So a few weeks ago, something major happened in my life, and I was like, and I'm not a big crier, but I was crying. And Todd texted me, and he could tell me that I was upset. And Todd, who hates crying, called and listened to me cry in the car for 45 minutes.
Hates crying.
Yeah, so he's like honestly one of my best friends. He's used the show, like in his experience there, because he was in a really weird mental place coming onto it, to make himself such a better person and use it as like a big jumping board to really fixing a lot of things that were really weird in his life. And it's like, I feel so honored to have somebody that strong be my friend.
Good.
And
I think
we are both really, I mean, we were the loud, sassy ones, right? And so
I think King of the Nerds,
my best friends in the entire world.
I think King of the Nerds does a good job of like kind of showing, even though people go off the deep end sometimes, they have this redeeming where it's like it comes back and they bring it always back to like, all right, these are still just people, like Todd seems like a good guy.
Away without getting a hug. I was the person that was like, where are you going?
Yeah, exactly.
But you say, whenever I jump off the bitches, I say, we forgive quickly. Or I said, we get over stuff quickly, is what I say.
I like that.
I think that that's very true, because it's like, yeah, I did understand where he's coming from, but I've also made it very clear that I don't think that excuses his actions.
Absolutely.
Sure. Let's go on. We've already kind of touched on Moby a little bit. I don't think there's any needs to talk about him anymore. I do want to go. I want to comment on one thing Jonathan said in kind of the confessional. What do y'all call that? Do you call it the confessional or the diary room? What do you call the?
I mean, talking head is a generally assumed term, I think, but you can say confessional or like the
okay. Because like in Big Brother, they call it the diary room. Survivor, it's referred to as a confessional. And everything's got a weird name, but just so as long as we know what we're talking about, that's fine. But Jonathan alludes to the fact that he thinks that your outburst could have cost Team Smash that nerd war. Do you think that your outburst in any way impacted that?
No, I think that House Hulu's song was stronger, but
Okay.
I also will admit that there is a certain sass that you can get when you're like, well, even if we lose, it's not me. Like,
Yeah.
So it was one of those things that it's like, no, I don't think so. I think that Moby came in. Well, it's so funny. If you watch the interviews with the judges before they see the songs, he's like, if they show up and they have fun and they just show me that they're here for a good time, then I'm going to be positive. And it's like, fuck you, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
No, and so it's one of those things where it's like, I know that Uri was upset that I did it because he was like, I didn't need you to talk to me or talk for me in front of people. But it's like, I'm not going to let somebody sit there and make my friends uncomfortable.
Sure.
So even if I had gone home after cursing out Moby, I would still be like, high five to myself.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
No,
hell yeah.
absolutely.
Hell yeah.
I thought it was well deserved, and I thought it was like a good moment of like, yes, I don't care who you are, Moby, fuck you,
Yeah.
whatever.
one
But
moment that he talks about that I think is really funny is whenever because I'm known for being the sassy one, right? So whenever he says, even though you've already said him a dick or whatever, and I like do the heart symbol, and he's
Yeah.
like, what's that, a kidney?
Kidney?
And Colby goes, what do you want us to do? And does the black power symbol? Like, no, like that is like Colby, man.
Yeah,
He
Colby's
also
so
has
great.
two really good jokes
Full
where he
Colby.
was like, Moby's going on and on about how nerds create culture and they don't appropriate culture. And he was like, so what? Moby grew up picking cotton in the fields in Northern California because he uses a lot of slave hymnals. And I was just like, Colby's great.
Dude, Colby is funny. I
Colby's
want to
great.
ask you this. I don't have it written down in my notes, but like from watching the show, is there anybody that you think, damn, I wished I'd worked with them, or anybody that you wish you'd gotten closer to, or that can really appreciate now that there's obviously at least a couple months outside the filming of the show, and that you can kind of appreciate a little bit more from watching them?
Well, it depends. So are you talking about like people that I wish that I would have collaborated with in the house? Or people
Yeah,
who I
like,
wish
okay,
that I
say
would
the
have
Secret
done-
Six. Say the Secret Six had been other 5 people. Other
Oh
than
no,
yourself.
there's no other 5 people that could. Or there's no like the Secret Six had to have been those people, and we've actually had this discussion a bunch. Like, would we change anybody? And it's like, it had to be those people. There's nobody else that we could have like brought up to that social mindset quick enough
Yeah.
to have
Sure.
it necessarily work. And to be fair, Amanda and I had both approached Caitlin about being a part of an inter-team alliance very early on, and she said that she wasn't there to play alliances. So
Okay. Bad idea.
Oh.
Does the Secret Six have a group text?
we do have a group chat on Facebook, and we have done like we've seen each other all in the real world because it's like we are all very good friends, but also
Sure.
like it's not super exclusive, right? Because like I said, Todd is one of my best friends. I'm really good friends with Ori's girlfriend, which is
Interesting.
like something you wouldn't expect. But yeah,
Does
we
she-
do.
Does
We
she?
do have a
Does
thing,
she
but it's mostly for being like people hate us a lot. Like, what do we do?
yeah. Well, like a question about Ori's girlfriend is like you said. Basically, you had to be a babysitter for Ori in the house and keep him on the straight and narrow. Is she like kind of a hard ass? Does she have to keep Ori in line? Is that?
She is so much nicer than I am, but yes. When we watched at the premiere, like when we watched the episode, she was like, "Yeah, Heather, we're working on some of these things," and there's a montage of him getting distracted in episode 2, where I'm like, Ori sees a shiny object in the corner of the room, he's off, and
Yeah.
Anya was like, "Yeah, that's something that we have problem with."
That's funny.
So she's great though, like she is so patient.
That's
That's
awesome.
funny. I want to keep moving through like the family game.
Wait.
nights.
What are you drinking there? Is it?
This is water.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Uh, like we can't even see what you're drinking, McCrae.
Whatever.
So
I'm
you're just-
drinking.
you're just like
I'm
a-
pounding beers right now. I'm having a good old time. I'm loving this.
Could you have gotten a harder fucking charade to give than Neverending Story?
Well, to me, it seemed very easy. Like, as soon as I saw
Well,
the-
yeah, you tried to talk about Amanda's child.
Well,
okay.
what they don't even show is I literally point to other people. I'm like, them, no. Them, no. Them, no. And the other team is watching the whole time. Like, Lily and Rachel knew what I was doing. And I was like, you had a baby. Like, and she was just like, she was saying things like, Rosemary's baby. And I was just like, did I point to fucking Rosemary? No, I pointed to you. Like, oh my gosh.
Oh,
Like, whenever
so
I saw
good.
that come up on the screen, I was like, this is my golden moment. Like,
Yeah.
this is, but it's one of those times where.
So you were like, I got this, and then you got up
exactly.
there
I
and
was
fucking.
like, oh my god, it's your baby, like your baby, like.
Do you have any ways that you would try to do it differently now?
Like this, like
Yeah.
where Atreus on Falcor and like
Yeah.
does this, like what else do you do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That reminds me
That's a
of.
tough one.
Yeah.
I mean, that really is a tough one.
That
I
is,
thought
yeah,
that
absolutely.
Like, I thought I was like, this is gonna be so easy, like so fucking easy, and it wasn't.
Well, like, how easy, like, okay, of all the fucking things that Colby sucks at, he's like the worst artist in the entire world. He could draw a fucking bow tie.
That
You
was
know?
awesome.
I mean, that was like, I felt so sorry for that
That
dude,
made
'cause
me
I
feel
love-
better about my drawing skills. Hell.
I feel like he was the MVP and also the least valuable player on our team, like simultaneously,
Can
because
you tell us about Full Colby?
So full Colby was invented because Colby in the house would not talk to anybody really. Like he was like really quiet. He doesn't make a joke unless he thinks it's really worth it. So he always makes fun of Todd because Todd makes super crude, super easy jokes all the time, and he just goes, "You're spending Zimbabwe dollars, man," because he's seeing his dirt, right? Zimbabwe dollars. So Colby doesn't really like do a lot of things, but one time we were complaining because we had this jug of Skittles and the green Skittles were green apple flavored, and everyone was like, "What the fuck happened to lime?" And he went on this rant for about 20 minutes about Smokehouse barbecue Doritos, and he was like, "I had 15 months with those chips. Sometimes you like something and nobody else likes it." And he was like, "I knew that they were going off the shelves because they started being 2 for the price of 1, 3 for the price of 1, 2 for $5, and I just fucking knew it. And I would go there before school and after school and at lunch to get these chips." And he just like went off about these Doritos. And I was like, I feel like you've been hiding something this entire time, and that's full Colby. Like, you've been playing like half Colby, quarter Colby, but like that's Colby.
That's
And
full.
That's
full out Colby.
awesome.
Yeah.
What kind of Doritos did you like?
Smokehouse barbecue, I believe. I've never heard of them. They were only around for 15 months.
No.
Fuck. We're gonna have to ask
I've
him
never
about
heard of
that.
it either.
Gonna have to
Yeah,
ask him
we'll
about
have to
that for sure.
Okay, I want to break this down. McCrae and I were talking about this earlier, and this is something that I just want to kind of figure out where your head was at. Okay, this gets a little complicated, so I hope I can explain this correctly. You should understand me if McCrae's microphone will quit fucking up, and we can.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm so sorry.
A second ago, it sounded like you were just like elbowing your keyboard or something. I don't even know what the fuck that noise
I'm
is.
a little bit of WrestleMania at home. We're just
Yeah,
fucking
yeah.
off the top rope a couple times here.
I got you.
Yeah.
All right. So when the Nerd War was lost, the Secret Six was going to initially you're going to put it in the other team, the winning team's hands, okay, and team Huluvu to make the decision, okay. And what's that?
Initially, we were going to decide amongst. So initially, the winning team had
That's
the
right.
easy job of
You're
voting.
going to cannibalize basically on your own team. Okay. Well, you were saying, "Oh God, I can't decide between Jonathan and Amanda was saying the same. Blah. We'd hate to have to decide." Well, then you put it in Team Huluvu's hands, and you and Amanda, you went to Lily. Amanda went to Ben, and you immediately started saying, "Jonathan has the best chance against Colby."
Well, hold on. No. So we're gonna lay this out even thicker.
Okay.
First of all, it was my decision to flip the vote, and that's because Jonathan came to me and he said, "Look, Heather, here's how we both can get what we want." He was like, "You need to convince Amanda that House Huluvu is not voting for Colby. You and Amanda are going to vote for Colby. When you vote for Colby, Colby and I are going to vote for Amanda. This way, you never have to vote for Amanda. But when it ties like that, the nerd off will be Colby versus Amanda." And when he told me this, because he was like, "I need you around because you are going to be my strongest ally in an individual game." Because
Okay.
Jonathan and I had already kind of been strategy partners. And I was like, "You are absolutely correct. That is the only way." Because Amanda does a confessional where she says, "I have a 50-50 chance of going in." And people are like, "Can you not do math? It's Colby, and then there are 3 of you." And it's because I was completely safe. Because I was closer to Amanda and closer to Jonathan than they were to each other. And they would not sacrifice me.
So she slipped up by saying that.
I was the one who actually went in House Huluvu's bedroom and was like, "We have to flip it." Like, because otherwise it would be me and Amanda locking it against Jonathan and Colby, or me and Jonathan locking it against Amanda. And I didn't want to have either one of those things happen. So I was like, "Look," and I flipped it.
So you didn't want to go against Amanda, is what you're saying? In
Well,
any
it would have
scenario,
never been
in
Amanda.
any
It was
scenario, but
Colby versus Colby.
sure, but you would have still knowingly having done that allowed Amanda to go into harm's way, having to face Colby in a nerd off, and you did not want that to happen. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
And then the thing with Jonathan is, like I mentioned before, I spent so much of this game trying to prove to Jonathan that I wasn't going to fuck him until individual game, right?
Okay.
So that's what we kept saying. It's like, this is all solid until it's individual game. So
Okay.
I've been trying to prove this to Jonathan. So I was like, either I can become a huge liar, or the last thing that I do in this house, or that Amanda sees happen in this house, it's going to be me throwing her under the bus.
Okay.
Or I can take the risk, give it to the other team, and see what happens. They actually had us all come in. Lily came and talked to every single person and was like, who do you think it should be? And we actually laid it down, being like, depending on what nerd off it is, I would be good at this, Amanda would be good at this, Jonathan would be good at this. Overall, I assessed Jonathan. But that wasn't something that Amanda and I coordinated. That was our independent assessments of the situation.
So that was... Okay.
But you have to assume that there was some... You have to assume that, of course, you guys are so close that there's no way that you will ever come to the assumption that, we should get out Amanda. There's no way in hell.
Well, Jonathan tried. He tried really hard to split us between each other.
Yeah.
So he worked me over first with that conversation, and then he worked over Amanda, and I walked in the room right after he had spent his time spieling to Amanda, and he looked at me and he had a huge smile on his face and was like, she is never gonna fuck you over.
Yeah.
He was like, I tried so hard and she's never gonna fuck you over.
Okay.
So, but they make it look like it was a super surprise that I was going in, but I knew that I was.
It did appear like, holy shit, Heather. I mean, it was a little bit of a shocker to me, because that brings me to my next question I've got down here. Okay. I want to talk about Caitlyn a little bit, mostly just because in this past episode, Jonathan went to her, exposed the Secret Six, so that basically devolves by her gaining the knowledge of its existence. And it seemed like they at least made it look like Caitlyn played some major role. Based on what you said earlier, it was mostly Jonathan, but in that you were unanimously voted into the nerd off.
Well,
okay.
So first of all, House Hula Boo always did things different than Team Smash. So Team Smash, we didn't tell people before they were going in. But House Hula Boo had the opposite thing. They were like, whoever we're voting in, we're telling them.
Okay.
They also had a pact amongst their team to always vote unanimously. So it's not like I was offended that I was unanimously voted, right? Like that's what their team does, is they always vote unanimously.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it was one of those things where Jonathan had basically went into the Hula Boo bedroom and done a very elaborate, like, screaming, I have my finger on the button. If it's me and I come back, like, you're all fucked because I have Colby, right? And I have Caitlyn. Yeah. So then it was put down. They had to logic it between me and Amanda. But they did vote the person who they thought. They were like, we vote the person who we thought would have the best chance of beating Colby.
Okay.
For what we think the nerd off might be. Fun fact, I'm super good at almost all puzzles except for word scrambles because I have dyslexia.
Really?
Is that true?
So
Is
it was
true?
like
Okay.
super convenient.
Have you talked to the producers after the fact and like, thanks a lot, assholes? Like, motherfuckers.
They knew it. I know that they knew it because somebody asked me in an interview one time. They were like, "Did you know Heather has dyslexia?" And then they were like, "Oh, you're Heather." And I was like, "Yeah." But that's why whenever they pull it off, they're like, "It's a word scramble." I'm like,
wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
No shit. So
really.
were you pretty intimidated going into any kind of challenge against Colby? I mean, Colby seems to be one that people talk about, and I don't know if they're just giving him like false praise because he obviously wasn't in a major alliance. People don't seem to warm up to him hugely and enjoy his company. It doesn't seem that way right now. However, everybody knows this motherfucker's smart. I mean,
well, he's very good at studying, and he is very intense.
Yes.
He gets really upset in really easy situations. So what I kept saying in all of my interviews was like, I just hope you put him in a silly costume, because like looking at how mad he was wearing that fedora, like the more ridiculous thing he has to wear, like the more upset he gets. And I was like, I'm hoping that whatever we do, we have to do it in ballerina costumes, like because then I have no problem. But yeah, he does get very intense, but I wasn't scared. Like, I was like, I have a fair shot in this until I saw it was a word scramble. But even, like, doing Sudoku and stuff, like, it was one of those things where it's like, I could have smashed him.
Well, I was going to say, information you had to study was, like, Sudoku stuff and whatever, all that bullshit, and then, like, it was a word jumble. Do you feel like you wasted your time studying the wrong stuff and not actually...
Well, first of all, no amount of studying for word jumble would have ever helped anybody, I don't think.
Sure.
It was, like, a packet of, like, second-grade puzzles. So it was like really easy word scrambles, like flower and spring, and then there were like word searches, and then there were crosswords. So the only two things that were like a medium difficulty, and there were crosswords and Sudoku. So I was like, well, I'm great at both.
Okay.
Go me. Yeah, and I was like, even though Colby is like a trivia guy, like I do the crossword literally every day. So I was like, even in that situation, I was pretty confident.
Okay.
But yeah, so it was basically, the study materials were only to let you figure out how to do a given puzzle, not necessarily become good at it.
Okay. Well, because they focused on that there's the Sudoku stuff, and then I just thought maybe you get your mind geared towards like word problems, word puzzles, that kind of stuff. And anyway, it seemed like they did a little bit of like a bait and switch with you. Is I guess.
Kind of. Well, Lily had actually come up with a bunch of her own word scrambles because the entire Secret Six helped me study, right? So she came up with a bunch of her own word scrambles, and we worked on those too because there weren't very hard ones in the packet. So.
Okay.
She's good at that.
Well, actually, Spencer, I wanted to say,
Yeah.
so when they showed you guys both studying, they showed Caitlin going over to Colby and like, she was telling all you guys like, oh, I'm spreading all these lies, I'm screwing him up. Did you believe that? Was that legit?
No,
I'm
pretty sure it's clear that everybody was like, Caitlin.
Yeah.
Like when she walks away, everyone's like, okay. The thing about Caitlin is everybody in the Secret Six has played a deception-based board game before in their life.
Yes.
And has navigated like an intense social situation before, neither of which I think Caitlin has ever encountered in class. So when she came in, we were all like, yeah, okay, that's cute. Like, bye-bye. Yeah. Like, you're not helping distract me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because I like to see that they're like, it seems like to me from my perspective, they're kind of giving her like almost like a mastermind edit, not as much as oh my God.
Jonathan.
Yeah, Jonathan, exactly. Like, they're not giving her as much of a mastermind edit, but they're giving her, like, the cold, heartless, like, she's just here to kick some ass kind of edit. Yeah. And so, like, hearing that where it's, like, she's kind of socially unaware, like, to me gives, like, and it's not a bad thing by any means, but it gives her, like, actually, okay, so she is a person, It's not like this edit
it almost
that they're
makes,
trying
it almost
to give
makes
her.
Comical. It almost makes her comical that she's
bad
trying to
way,
do one thing and, like, pull the wool over y'all's eyes, and y'all are like, okay, Caitlin, what the fuck ever.
Because, like, I'm totally buying into her.
Like, it was irrelevant, because even if she had done that, it was still irrelevant information, right?
Okay.
So it's like, didn't matter on so many levels.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay, this is getting down to the last little part of the nerd off. When Colby buzzed in and he had spelled Manhattan, okay, you had 30 seconds, okay, where he had to sit out and could not play. Was that the most stressful? What was going through your mind during this because you knew, like, I would assume that because of the sensitivity of knowing what words were what, that you didn't know exactly where he was in it, but he was obviously close. Yeah. Okay, so during that last 30 seconds, what was on your mind?
Well, here's the most stressful thing, especially watching it, is as soon as, like, I'm awful at word scrambling, I'm dyslexia, but as soon as they pulled that off, I looked at it, I see the theme of what's going on, and I see that the bottom is going to be Manhattan. So I knew the final answer, and when the challenge department had described the challenge to me, I was like, what if I know the final answer before I can fill in the clues? And they were like, you won't. So when Colby buzzed in, I actually raised my hand and I was like, so you're telling me if right now I put the answer right there on that board, it doesn't count because they haven't filled in the rest of the puzzle. And they're like, you have to solve the puzzle completely and then move the red objects to the top. And I was like,
that would have been great to see though.
Yeah, but also once you have the final answer in your mind, it makes everything so much more difficult because you're like, this doesn't fucking matter. Like I know it's Manhattan, right?
Sure.
The other thing that really sucked is there was one bit that was radiation, and I knew it should have been radiation, and so I kept touching. Instead of physically picking up the pieces and putting them on the board, which is what I should have done, I kept counting it out. So it was like R-A-D-I-A-T-I-O-N. The problem is I was saying R-A-D-I-A-T-I-O-N, right? So that's missing a letter. And I was like, so it can't be radiation. And I was like, well, there's nothing else it can be. So I was kind of just like, well, we'll see what happens.
I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I felt so sympathetic because I was like, this is exactly what I would do because like the way, like your strategy at the beginning I thought was the prime strategy. This is like for reality TV show people, like they know, like everyone always does this is like you gather all your supplies that you're going to need first and then you put them in a pile and then you go from there. Like that, like, to me, I felt so bad because like, this is exactly what I would do. I'd grab everything, and my girlfriend was like, no, you do about this way, and I was like, no, she's got it. I know it.
How are you gonna solve the? I still stand by that. Like, how are you gonna solve the puzzle if you don't have all the pieces? The thing that frustrates me though is I have like little bitty T-Rex arms, so it's like that's why I had to plunge myself in that entire like fucking bag because I was like, I cannot get to the bottom.
It was funny when you had like when you would reach in there far enough and you get your face, it looked like you were huffing paint and shit. So that was pretty funny.
Well, also it was glue-based slime, so you're close.
Yeah. Well, was it hard to wash off?
Very.
It was that stuff, Spencer, I bet.
The bra that I was wearing is still stained green.
Yeah. We had a similar substance that we had to wash off. And I have like hairy legs.
Hair.
It's fucking a nightmare.
Yeah. Well, so like people, like I hugged everybody goodbye, and Caitlin was like, "This is how I knew that we were friends, is because you asked instead of just doing it." Do you want to hug me? And she was like, "Yes." But so like Lily's shirt is still stained from when I hugged her goodbye, and it was just like a brief press.
Interesting. A brief press. Did you get better at Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man Galaga?
Well, yeah, of course.
Duh.
Yeah, well, that's what I spent most of my time, like, we would have time where we weren't allowed to, like, socialize with each other because cameras were on break or whatever, and anytime that would happen, that was, like, my standing space. Or if I was ever really stressed out, I would go and play Miss Pac-Man, and people would come and have, like, benign conversations with me. Like, they'd be talking to me about something, like, yeah, that's great, because like old puzzle games like that are so easy to just be like really mechanical about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you just sit there and like go through level and not even really pay attention to anything. And
did everyone have their own little thing that they did during those times?
Yeah, Caitlin always flew a drone. So we had quadricopters, and so she always flew those. And so if you ever need to have a private conversation with Caitlin, you just like go sit next to her and pretend that you were interested in drones.
Oh, cool.
Amanda and I together, we did puzzles a lot, which is, and all the promo material they showed, like, we'd flip a table covered in puzzles.
Sure.
We didn't show it in the episode, but that was this episode. Jonathan, like, whenever we lost, Jonathan was like, I think that it would make us all feel better if we flip a table. And I was like, I think that's a terrible fucking idea. And then I turned around, and literally 10 seconds later, I was like, let's do it. And we emptied out, like, a bunch of puzzles on top of it and flipped it. That was super dramatic.
That's cool.
Great.
That's good. Well, I wanted to ask you this. You're a neuroscientist. Obviously, they highlighted your love for Harry Potter. What other aspects of nerddom do you think you fall into?
I mean,
or do you have interest
in the classic gaming, which I think that they made pretty clear, right?
Yeah.
I do, like, the type of nerd that I think I am is I always describe it to people as I was raised on the internet. So I'm from the middle of nowhere in Oklahoma, like straight up cow pastures, Oklahoma.
What city?
It's called Tonkawa. You've never heard of it.
No.
My graduating class was less than 30 people. But I went to that like my home high school was less than 30 people. It's a 45-minute drive to the nearest store that sells baby spinach.
Oh shit! My mom was born in Weatherford, Oklahoma, and my best friend from high school was from Moore, Oklahoma. So I was like, what if there's a chance? You know?
Yeah. So basically, starting from a very, very, very young age, I used Harry Potter to kind of socialize. So I made my first online account in 1999 to talk about Harry Potter. And then ever since then, that was like my primary method of interacting with people. So I did the whole train where I went like from Zanga to LiveJournal to Tumblr. So I have a very unique perspective. And that's the type of nerd that was never really displayed on the show, I don't think, is like somebody who literally just blogs all the time and like writes fan fiction and hangs out and does basically nothing on the internet for fun.
I have one question. You're a Harry Potter fan.
Yes.
I also am a Harry Potter fan when it comes to the books. Let me be clear. It's the books only. Wait, what was that?
The movies are awful.
Oh, thank God. I felt like I was the only person in the world that was like, the movies are just terrible.
I've seen most of the movies maybe twice. That's because I felt obligated to see them twice in theaters.
Yeah, so. I'm very sorry. But here's what I want to ask you, is I'm a huge fan, but the final book, what did you think about it?
So I know that a lot of people don't like the first half because they're like, it's Harry Potter and the Great Camping Trip.
Yeah.
I actually love it because to me it reminds me of Lord of the Rings, where it's like you sit around and do nothing for a long period of time and then there's excitement, and then you do nothing for a long period of time. I feel like the last half of the book was rushed, and I feel like the epilogue was shit.
Okay, thank God. I thought the beginning was fine, but like this is my own little rant here. Harry should have died. Like, it would have been a great ending. Harry's dead.
I mean, he did die, but then he came back.
Exactly. That seemed like
Kill your
just,
darlings.
Oh
Kill
my
your
god,
darlings.
that just seemed like so like placating to the masses. Like, no, your favorite hero is not dead. Oh, like that's don't even get me started.
Why
Holy
would you
shit.
kill some intellectual property that's worth billions of dollars?
Well, she
she's
said she
never
wasn't
gonna write a
exactly.
sequel.
She said she wasn't gonna bring it up. So it's like make it a real good piece of art and like just have it be a tragic ending, like some Shakespearean. Don't even get me started. Sorry guys. All right. On that note, we gotta end on a McCrae rage. We have to. All right. Sorry guys. Thank you guys for everyone for watching. Heather, do you have anything to plug? Where can everyone find you? Everyone loves you so much. Where can they find you?
You can find me absolutely everywhere under Heather Klus. That's Heather Klus. It's like a loose Iliad joke, like, Patroclus is Patrick with a plus, so it's Heather Klus, Heather with a plus. I'm also starting a YouTube channel with Lily, and so we have a few things up, but not very much, and that's YouTube. So the channel's called Xalt, stylized X plus alt, and that's what you can find out on YouTube as is XPLUSALT.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. What are you going to cover on your YouTube channel?
So we have a few sketch ideas. I think that we're going to play an RPG called Night Witches, and have like basically an all-girl like D&D style campaign where we take it really seriously and wear costumes and
Yes, I love
Very cool.
this. You guys are going to be
Very
doing
cool.
it on Twitch, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You should be getting that name on Twitch. Steal that up so no one else gets it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, awesome. Hey, yeah, no, that's excellent. If when you start to share stuff on social media, I will retweet and favorite it for you and try to help spread the word.
Absolutely.
So, because I think that's awesome. But anyway, yeah, we're gonna hop off here. Everybody, thanks for watching. You can follow me at Spencer B. Clausen on Twitter. McCrae is at McCrae Chum. And McCrae, anything else we need to plug?
You guys can follow me on Twitch. I'm always there. Twitch.tv/ChumLord. Love it. Love you guys. Love everything.
Oh, subscribe to the YouTube channel for weekly updates.
Everything good. All right, thank you guys so much for watching, and take care, everyone. God bless. See you and all that fun stuff, and thank you again, Heather. Appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.